So I mentioned the quadratic formula in class, I think on Friday, and I heard Joe say that he was like, oh, I need to remember that, which made me feel like maybe you guys have worked with the quadratic formula before. So hopefully the notes today aren't as horrible as the notes yesterday. Here are the answers to all of those completing the square problems that you did. Feel free to circle the ones you'd have questions about, to ask me when I come back on Thursday. I'll obviously try to help you out, but also ask your classmates if they can help explain something too. Use them as a resource. So the quadratic formula. I always remember it as a song, so I might sing it like throughout the notes today. I've learned it as like Pop Goes the Weasel. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There's like a bunch of videos you can watch on YouTube of different people singing it different ways. So however you remember it is completely up to you. But that's how I remember it. So that's how we're going to start today. So we're going to solve this equation in simplest radical form using the quadratic formula. So sometimes you can solve quadratics by factoring them. This guy's not factorable, so we've written prime in the past. I showed you one way to solve these, which was completing the square. That's what you did yesterday, so that's one way to solve them. So we learned that you could factor, or you can complete the square, or you can use the quadratic formula. You just have to be able to recognize which variable is which. So in this case, a is always the number in front of the thing that's squared, which is a 1. B always comes next. It's in front of the variable that's not squared, so that's 3. And C is always the number by him or herself, I guess, and that's negative 5. So the formula is x is equal to, so x equals negative b plus or minus the square root, and it's a big one, b squared, and I always just go ahead and square it. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Yuck. This pen's not writing very well. All right, so now you want to simplify what you've got. X is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root. Underneath, we still have the 9, but when I multiply all those things together, I get a positive 20, and it's all over 2. So x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 29 all over 2. If you can simplify what's underneath the radical, do it. In this case, we cannot. And so that is your final answer. X equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 29 all over 2. And next. So in that case, it was already in the quadratic equation form. This is a jumbled mess. So I don't know what A is, I don't know what B is, I don't know what C is by looking at this. I need to rearrange some things in order to make that happen. Right now this whole thing's being divided by 7, so I would like to multiply both sides by 7. But I can't write over there. Multiply this side by 7, I'm going to multiply this side by 7, because those will then cancel. And we end up with 4 minus 2y squared is equal to 14y. I can move everything to the other side. So you have a positive 2y squared now. You have a positive 14y, and then you have a negative 4. So now you can tell that A is 2, B is 14, and C is negative 4. So again, I'm going to sing it. That's how I remember. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared. 14 squared, 196. It equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, don't forget it's negative 4, all over 2a. All right. Let's begin simplifying. So underneath the radical, when I multiply all those things together, I get 196 plus 32. It ends up being positive, and now I have a number 4 on the bottom. I have negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 228. I factor treed that up. Oops, don't forget divided by 4. I factor treed that up and realized that I have x is equal to negative 14. A 2 gets to come out, and 57 has to stay underneath. 4 on the bottom. You must simplify though. All those things can be divided by 2. So instead of negative 14, we have negative 7. Instead of plus the square root, or plus 2 square roots of 57, we just have 1 square root of 57. And on the bottom is the number 2. So that's what x is equal to. Negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 57 all over 2. Last but certainly not least, had to mix it up on you a little bit. A is still 1. B, however, is a negative square roots of 5. And C is negative 1. This quadratic formula works the same way though. X equals negative b, so it's not negative square roots of 5, it's positive square roots of 5 now. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared. If you square that, you just end up with 5. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, x is equal to the square root of 5 plus or minus. We have 5, and then it's plus 4 all over 2. So x is equal to the square root of 5 plus or minus 5 plus 4 is 9 all over 2. And we know the square root of 9 is actually 3. So square root of 5 plus or minus 3 all over 2. Cannot be simplified anymore, and that is your final answer. Get super, super good at the quadratic formula today, because tomorrow you're going to do some word problems with the quadratic formula. Good luck.